Issue 3, Coronavirus Bailout, Part 2.
As the coronavirus pandemic continues its rampage, average daily deaths now stand at 1,000 in the United States, with total deaths of nearly 160,000. And in Congress, Democrats and Republicans are negotiating over a second pandemic stimulus bill. Democrats want $3.4 trillion. Republicans say new spending should be capped at a third of that amount. One sticking point is Republican Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell's demand for a 5-year coronavirus liability shield for entities which remain open or decide to open up.
When the economy began to reopen.
Clarence, we have had some consensus now moving towards some common ground perhaps in this stimulus, but how do you see playing out towards Election Day the competing element of the Democratic Party that says maintain a very high, very generous subsidy to workers who effectively have no income anymore, and Republicans who say, be careful there because we're incentivizing never returning to work?
Well, this is the typical divide between the right and the left. It makes for healthy debates. Right now, though, it's a campaign time. We're heading toward an election. And I, for the life of me, don't know how to tell people who are barely getting by already that you're not going to give them any more help, or you're going to give them about half the help that they need. If we're talking $200, $400, these are the kind of sums that it's tough for a family to stretch that far. And yet the language I've been hearing has been like, hey, they're really all a bunch of moochers out there, and they ought to just get out and go to work, the hell with the pandemic or whatever. It just doesn't make a good look politically, I would say.
David, your thoughts?
You know, this will come down somewhere in the middle between the $1 and the $3 trillion. Both sides will declare certain victories. But the real issue here is that, yes, this is an emergency and we probably need to help people, but we can't kick this can down the road indefinitely. These are exorbitant sums of money. I live in New York City, which is still by and large shut down. I don't have the slightest idea when Broadway is going to open, or museums, or you're going to be able to go into a restaurant. And I think the idea that we can continue, you know, Governor Cuomo likes to call it a pause. It's not a pause. It's a regression. We are losing every day. And I don't know how we climb back out of it. So yeah, I think we have to help people right now. But the bigger issue is getting America back to work, because there's a reckoning coming and it's going to be devastating.
Eleanor.
You're not going to get people back to work if you can't get the virus under control. The states opened up too soon, and now they're having to double back because of the escalation in the number of virus infections. McConnell isn't even sitting down with Pelosi and Schumer. The Treasury Secretary, Mnuchin, is left to handle this. He's doing a yeoman's job, but his understanding of what real people suffer in this country is not, it's not at all applicable to the situation. The simplest thing they can do is just extend the payments. It's what will save the economy. It's what the chairman of the Federal Reserve says needs to be done. Just do it.
Okay, Pat, you.
They are. The 33% contraction in GDP is pretty large, the biggest in history. I think what the Democrats have a strong hand in this sense. Pelosi wants $3.5 trillion or $3 trillion. That's it. So she says, this is what we want to give the American people, and the Republicans won't help us. Republicans are divided, as Dave suggested, between the deficit hawks who've come alive again and others who say we've got to get at least some money for the unemployment, whether it's 600 down to 400 down to 200, but we got to get something done. My belief is they're going to get something done, and it will probably be, I think, the 600 a week, that averages out, I think, to about 31,000 a year, in addition to regular unemployment. You keep doing that, and folks aren't going to go back to work.
I think this will be the pivotal issue.
Down
that
400,
Democrats,
600, 400, 200. But the Republicans are going to have trouble getting the deal because the Democrats are going to demand much more.
I think Democrats will win this victory, but coming into January, it'll be really interesting to see whether this sustains. Once we kind of get over the virus, whether this idea of maintaining some of these subsidies is sustained by the Democratic Party for political interest. Perhaps it won't be. Anyway, we shall move
by
on.
January.
By January, we'll see what the new Congress looks like. Anyway,
okay,
we'll move on.